Welcome to Lesson 2 of Nature of Roots. If you have not watched Lesson 1, please do so before watching this one. On Lesson 2, we are asked to solve for x by completing the square and to state the nature of roots. Remember, roots are what? Are basically the x-intercept of the parabola, right? So I'm going to write our equation as x squared plus 4x, let's see, plus 4x minus 7 equals to 0, right? And then here we're going to have, I always want a positive number here, which is x squared. I'm going to switch all the sign. This one becomes positive. This one will be negative. Then plus 7 equals to 0, right? Perfect. This is the standard form of a parabola. And before I complete the square, there are some set of rules that I need to follow, right? The first one is to make sure that I have 1 here. Is to make sure that I have 1 here. In this case, the number that is there is already 1. So I know that I am sorted. Okay, perfect. We will do the example where this number is not 1. Okay, so now let's check here. We're going to rewrite this way. X squared, right, minus 4x. And then just leave some space. We're going to add something here. So the plus 7, I'll write it somewhere. Let's do this actually. Okay, the plus 7, I'll put it somewhere there. Then equals to 0. Okay, so this is what we're going to add. So what you do is this. Remember your equation is a x squared plus b x plus c, right? The first rule is this to be 1, of which is fine. The second rule, after we verify that this part is 1, it's 1, we can all see, is you take whatever b is, you divide it by 2, and then you square. Right, and then you add first, and then you subtract after. So that is the second rule. So I'm going to take whatever b is on my equation. So bx, so the b is the number before the x. So my b in this case is -4. So remember I said you take whatever b is, which is -4, you divide it by 2, then you square. Then you do the same. -4 over 2, then you square. Right. Then the rule is you always start with a plus. Always. The brackets that you added, the first one must always be a plus. The second one must always be a minus. Always a plus, then a minus. Don't put a minus here. Then it's going to give you issues when you try to complete the square. Perfect. The main aim is to get a perfect square trinomial, which always have c as a positive. Okay. And then now we're going to simplify this bracket. So I'm going to rewrite everything the way. So I have x squared minus 4x. If you press your calculator, -4 over 2, it's 2 is -2 squared, which is +4. So which means we're going to have -4 and then plus 7 equals to 0, right? And then when you complete the square, you are always going to have 5 terms after adding half of b squared. You're going to group them into 2 pairs. The first 3 terms forms a trinomial. And then the last 2 terms will give you a constant. Perfect. So you group them 3 and 2. Now, this one, I'll show you what to do. You make a bracket, you put a square there, right? We're still dealing with this. And then what is square root of x squared? The square root of x squared is x, right? Then you square root 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So you square root x, you square root the first one, which is x, x squared, and then the last one, which is 4. And then you always take this sign, the sign on the b, which is negative. And then you are done with this part. And then if you check this part, it's going to be positive 3. The second part, when you add them, they give me positive 3, right? Then I have x minus 2 squared equals to negative 3, right? Then I'm going to square root. So x minus 2 squared inside the square root. The reason I'm square rooting is so that the square can go away. Then it's plus minus square root of negative 3. Don't forget to put a plus and minus when you square root. Ne? On the side where there is a constant or where there's a number, you're always going to put a plus and a minus. Okay, perfect. But from here, I'm not going to proceed because I can see that I have a negative number inside the square root, which means no solution, right? Remember, we cannot have a negative inside the square root, so no solution. Therefore, if there's no solution, it means imaginary roots, right? Imaginary or non-real roots. Perfect. And then we have solve for x by completing the square, which is no solution. And if we don't have answers, it means our roots are non-real or imaginary. Okay. I just want to show you the other way you could have done the nature of roots, because sometimes the question just need the nature of roots. They don't need you to basically do this discriminant. I mean, to do the completing of the square. So to state the nature of the roots, you need this part, b squared minus 4ac, right? And then remember, this is delta, right? Is the one that we use to determine the nature of the roots. This is discussed in lesson 1. Okay, now I can see that my b from the equation is negative 4. So I'm going to put it there. 4, I can see that my a is negative 1. I mean, if I use negative 4, my a must be positive 1 then, right? There. Perfect. And then my c is 7. So if you use this, if you use the first one, your a is going to be negative 1. Your b is going to be positive 4, and your c is going to be negative 7. Be careful not to mix them around. May I use this one? I use positive 1, negative 4, and my c is positive 7. Now let's see what we're going to get here. 4 squared is 16 minus, let's see, 4 times 7 is 28. So what is 16 minus 28 is negative 12, I think. 16 minus 28 is negative 12. And then this means that therefore delta equals to what? Negative 12. Remember, if delta is negative, it means you're going to have a negative number under the square root, right? Of which is therefore imaginary roots. Remember, we don't need a negative number inside the square root. So it's going to be imaginary roots or non-real roots. Perfect. And that's it for this question. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do another lesson on this. Please follow that as well. Thank you.